What's up, Addicts? I'm Josh.
And I'm Michael.
And today we're here to talk about Arifureta Volume 5. And this is, there's a lot that happens in this. In the previous volumes, we kind of took a break from the labyrinths, except for, the last volume where he went back. But in terms of, new labyrinths, we hadn't really seen them in a while. But this one, it comes back in full force. And just jumping right into it, we get, at the very beginning, we get to see a sneak peek of the antagonists and a little bit more of describing each of those characters, specifically on the demon side of things. And but when we get to look at Hajime, we get to see that he is on his way to the Grand Volcano Labyrinth, and on his way there he has to pass through the desert, and he ends up meeting a royal member that is part of a nearby city, and they actually get enlisted on a quest to go and check that out.
Quest.
Yeah, side quest. That happens in every game. You're just like, oh, I'm on my way here. I'm like, nope, got to do this. And there's a lot of that in this volume. But we get to see more of those side stuff, more, with this city, and then also with Muse returning her to her mother. But then on the other side of those, we get to see two labyrinths, one at the volcano and then the one under the water. And we get to see the first, not the first, but the first serious fight between Hajime and the demons.
It is pretty serious.
Yeah. And so,
more even.
That's pretty much what we get, besides, a little sneak peek into what's going on with Aiko and her chains, and, a looming threat that shows a big battle to come.
Yeah, and we got a second labyrinth in this one as well.
Yeah, the two, fire and water.
Fire, water. So as far as characters, I'm going to have to read from this list because there's quite a few, actually. So Freed, he's the demon commander. So he is basically the antagonist, and you'll get to see what powers he has, specifically in the powers in the lava dungeon. We have Mikhail. He is a subordinate demon and was referenced in the last book as someone who is going to avenge the death of his wife. Raise, we have another demon who is present in book 3. Book 3, book 3 when Hajime has a massive battle with 10,000 or however many monsters.
And he's like a discharged veteran at this point because he's only got one arm now.
Yes, he's a disabled vet.
Yep.
And then we have Rise. He is the Duke's son. We have the Duke, who plays a role in this one as kind of a ally and maybe future resource for Hajime to use. We have Melusine. Melusine is the Liberator, one of the Liberators in this one. We have Fish-san, or as I like to call him, Best Fishman of all time. He's an ally as well that they've, he's been referenced a couple times in previous books. I think it was
in the last volume.
Yeah,
we get to see him,
and he comes into play, being a bro. And then you have Remy, which is Muse's mother, who is an interesting character. There's some interesting interactions with her and Hajime, and how that is all going to work out.
Yeah, you get to see Daddy and Mommy come together.
Yep. The reunion, family reunion.
Family reunion, yeah. Gosh, there's so much things that happen. It's weird because it's a very packed volume. We get to see a lot of locations. We get to see them go a lot of places and do a lot of things. But this is more of just, I guess, connection building a bit.
Yeah, I would say that. You have the two dungeons. We were kind of talking about this book previously before we recorded it, and it's funny because I like the underwater dungeon more than Josh does. And
it's because I think the whole thing that happens in the volcano one is just it was just so over the top that when I got to the second dungeon, it was kind of a little underwhelming, I guess I should say.
I mean, the lava dungeon is awesome.
But I'll give you this: the one thing that they encounter in the underwater one, pretty hype fight.
Yeah,
if you say so.
Yeah, and you have this is the expanded cast of characters. We have Kaori playing a major role in this one.
See how she's pulling her weight, if any.
If any, I don't know. She gets to be a healer, so that's a thing.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty interesting aspect because up until this point, they haven't had a healer a couple times maybe they needed a healer.
Yeah.
It's kind of like one of those things.
The water.
Yeah. Which
Ambrosia? I don't know, whatever.
I think it's funny that the first volume that they actually need a healer, they don't have her present. It's just like you have one job.
You had one job. But yeah, no, this is an interesting thread. I really like the lava dungeon because he actually has to go through the trials while fighting other people and like avoid being attacked. So that's really cool. You get to see a lot of his acrobatic skills and his skills with Donner. Yeah. Which is something we haven't really seen. I mean, we've seen a little bit in the previous books. We get to see it like pushed to the limit in this one.
Yeah, we haven't seen it in a while because they haven't really gone through a dungeon that they've had to go all out, or they could go all out. Because I think the last one that we saw before this one was when they were in the gorge.
And they didn't have. Yeah, it wasn't really a fight the creatures kind of one. It was interesting. Yeah, and that's something that I kind of am glad they showed more of, like, his basic weapons, because he has so many gadgets, but at the end of the day, his revolver is still awesome. So I'm glad they were able to showcase that. As far as favorite moments, I really like the lava dungeon, kind of that scene. Not to be super spoily here, but, you know, just what happens there. I really liked the water dungeon, specifically, like, just kind of telling the backstory. You get more picture of how much of a jerks that these gods are. And you get actually a sneak peek at a character that we'll see in Volume 6.
Yeah, for me, I really liked seeing in the volcano labyrinth his interaction with the demon, and even though under certain circumstances you get to see, even though he is, you know, he's still a person, he's still vulnerable, but just how overwhelmingly much of a threat he can still be even when injured. I really like that. There's also some, like, you know, in the underwater labyrinth, more than, like, the action, like, the dungeon itself, I really liked seeing his confrontation, or not confrontation, but his straightforwardness with Kaori. There's a really heart-to-heart moment with them where he actually shows some, like, genuine concern for her. And there's actually a comedic moment to that, too, later on when certain ghosts appear, but it's just one that I really liked. But probably my favorite part of this entire volume is the very ending extra chapter where we get to see Yu and her diary.
Yeah, special reference. It's really good.
It's so good.
And it shows how good the author is because he's able to put himself back into certain periods of time, and it's hilarious and somewhat believable at the same time.
I kind of wonder if he, like, because using somebody that doesn't really express herself a whole lot, so I kind of wonder if when he was writing the other volumes, he, like, made notes of, like, how internally she feels, and then, like, later on when he was writing this one, he's like, okay, we're going to put this in the freaking diary.
Yeah, I think that's probably the high. It's one of the highlights of this book, but I would say it's probably the best after story of volume 1 through 4. This is probably the best extra chapter, and it's really worth reading.
Yeah, because you get to see just like what Yu has been thinking. I really wish they had a chapter like this in freaking Damachi for Eyes, so we could finally figure out what the hell she's thinking. But I liked it for Yu. Plus, there's a lot of funny moments, not just seeing like how she internally talks to herself, but also the commentary that Tio and Shia give while reading this, and it's just a great moment. But I guess do you have some final thoughts, or do you want to get into a rating?
We can go straight into the rating, because I kind of like talk a little bit about that. Do you want to go first? I can go first.
Sure, I can go first.
All right.
There is, I don't know. There's a lot of things that happen in this. There's a lot of smaller parts, I guess you could say, in the book that are, I guess, they're kind of like smaller moments. That are really rewarding, even though they're, you know, not action heavy. Because I think the heaviest part of the action is, again, the beginning and then the very ending. But the action in it was pretty great. I liked that we got to speed up a little bit, and we got 2 labyrinths in this than we normally don't. So for me, I would still say it's an FFA. I don't know necessarily where on the FFA scale I'd put it on. Because, like I said, it gets a little bit slower in the middle, but there's still some good moments. So, just, you know, that would be mine.
Keep that in mind.
Yeah.
I really liked. It is similar to the last book in some ways, where the beginning and end are really good. I think it's really hard to rate this one for me because when you were talking, I was thinking about it. And in some ways, it is a 10. I think the last chapter is a 10. I think the lava scene is a 10, and I think the underwater scene is very good, like world building, looking at the past and seeing how bad the church is in this series is always in anime. They're always bad, but I'm gonna have to probably give it an FFA just for the middle part, and because again, if I compare it directly with other works that I've given 10s, so Arifureta Volume 1 specifically, Volume 1 is still better than this one. But it's a really good read. The last chapter is a 10. If I could just rate that, I'd give it a 10. I'd give it pure ecstasy. But
it's pure ecstasy in multiple ways.
But for the purpose of this, it's I'll give the book a FFA.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. And this, just kind of like afterthoughts of it. This is a volume that focuses more on the character build-up, like character development, setting some things up to get a payoff in the next volume. We get to see that his antagonists are finally getting more development. Like, we've seen them in the shadows kind of operating, but we're finally get to see them come to light and get the scope of what their plans are or just how powerful they are. And so we're getting to see, I think the next volume is going to be where we get to see a lot of this payoff. This is one that's just building up to that. And, with that, we get to see some power size ups, seeing just where Hajime is versus his opponents.
Yeah, because he's past the halfway point now.
Yeah.
4 dungeons? Yeah.
Gosh, that's another thing, too, because you're... three at this point, because, the next one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but, there's just so much. I don't want it to ever end, but it's going to end eventually. It's going to end. So, but yeah, that's our review of this. We're going to come back for Volume 6 really soon. And we're going to have some other things out, too.
We'll see you guys next time.
Yep. We'll see you next time.
Peace.
Later.